What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. Now that I'm back recording videos again, man, I am rusty. I was like recording an intro and all this subs and stuff for like 15 to 20 minutes, and I just realized I didn't have the record button on. Here I am, I'm making up a bunch of nonsense to say in beginning of the videos because I've been gone from the game for a bit. Anyway, let's get to the first RPG horror story for today. Players stopped me during the final session of our campaign to yell at me. I was a first-time GM when I was doing this session, and it was the last session of the campaign we've been doing for about 6 months. I had reinforced to them that their goal was to rescue the king and help him escape from a god's domain, and that the god would have been beatable since he was the god of death. I admit this is probably something I did wrong, but I thought with my constant reminders of it, they would have remembered what the objective was, and their purpose wasn't to kill the god, but to rescue the king. When you remind players of something that's very important, very key, you gotta keep it small. You gotta keep it on like, not even like a few sentences, you gotta keep it on a TLDR level small. I try to run my sessions every week, but it's more like every other week at this point. But even then, trying to remember everything that's going on in the world, especially part of the main quest line, it's gonna get lost, and any sort of simple information you thought you gave to the players will get forgotten. Players are just thinking about one thing and you're thinking about something else entirely. So when it comes to giving players important info they need to remember, always keep it super simple. This way every information is boiled down to its simplest elements and nobody can get confused over anything. To my surprise, they didn't go and try to rescue the king and try to fight and kill this god. It was only when I reminded them that the king was there that they realized what they were supposed to be doing. They then turned around and started yelling at me about game mechanics and objectives and how I didn't make anything clear to them and was vague. That's quite a reaction. Are you sure you gave them like very simple information? The reason I asked that is because I've done that before. I've been there. I misconstrued information, gave them like a huge block of thing, gave them written stuff, and it's still difficult to understand. This lecturing went on for about 15 minutes before they finally continued with the session, and most of them were being passive-aggressive for the remainder of the session. I'm assuming it's just really high tension because it's supposed to be like the session finale and stuff. They're probably really high-strung, really wound up, that I want to mess up, that I want to screw up, and maybe a slight misunderstanding kind of set them off. I mean, it's unfair for you, for sure, but I can kind of see where they're coming from if like the tensions are high and maybe they didn't mean to be so starky and stuff, you know, just kind of the tension was just really high and got the best of them. I don't know. It's either that or they're just a bunch of jerks, but it's really a flip of a coin, so I have no idea. I know I'm not blameless for this, as I did some things wrong, but at the same time, stopping the GM in the middle of a session to yell at them about their GMing style and something they spent hours planning isn't exactly the best thing ever. This isn't the only time they've done this, as in the second campaign I've tried to run for them, they stopped me during my first session to yell at me twice about unbeatable enemies. When the enemies were beatable, there were just storytelling that needed to happen that would set up the rest of the campaign. It's safe to say I won't be playing with them again. You did say yourself that you did some things wrong, so maybe communication or the type of communication or type of storytelling was the problem. I'm assuming in the first part they had a whole plan set up because they understood your concept one way, and then maybe because of this miscommunication they got like really heated because they thought, oh no, our plans are gonna fall through because we already were prepared for this, and you know, high tensions for an end of season finale. The second start of the session though, it kind of reads a little bit two ways. On one hand, it could potentially be that the enemies weren't powerful and these guys are just overreacting and freaking out over nothing for a first session. Or second, you might have railroaded them into a encounter they weren't completely ready for, and the enemy was super powerful and was unkillable until later in the story because it was part of a cutscene. Have you ever played a video game level where you're supposed to fight the boss that you're clearly not ready for, and the boss is just dumping on you like crazy, doing crazy damage, and the whole point of the boss fight is for you to die? I genuinely hate these kind of boss fights that are just there to slap you around and to show that you're weak and powerless and it's an unwinnable encounter. Don't make me fight through it with all my might. Just play cutscene, show myself getting my ass kicked and stuff. What's the point of me playing through it if I'm gonna lose anyway. To me, it feels like it's not even storytelling, it's just forcing itself into an encounter that clearly is unwinnable, so no matter how much you stress or think about it, unless you know ahead of time, you're just gonna stress yourself for no reason. Just play a cutscene and force me to die that way instead of making me fight for life and death. Now, I'm not saying this DM did this specifically, but maybe we're missing a lot of context, and that's basically where the story cuts off. So I would say check back and self-reflect to make sure you didn't put up a overpowered fight for no reason. Disgusting Sokka ripoff gets forcibly removed from the table. I used to play D&D at a game shop with a mix of friends and acquaintances. The DM was acquaintance, but seemed like a cool dude. Then there was another new guy, problem player, aka Sokka, and my two friends, both female, one of which would play a Moon Elf cleric and the other a Drow sorcerer. The fact that my friend chose a Moon Elf cleric was probably the impetus for the new guy to play as Sokka, Ranger Fighter, given that his girlfriend in the show, Avatar: The Last Airbender, if it wasn't obvious, turned into the moon. He said he was gonna play Sokka, but more based. Sokka, but more based. What does that mean? What does that mean? He was one of the worst players I've ever dealt with. He, the player, had serious main character syndrome, and this was poorly masked by his character's obnoxious arrogance. He was very quick to murder NPCs, usually for no good reason other than an NPC pushed back against his BS. He would always claim to be the leader of the group and get super aggressive with anyone, especially women, who challenge his authority as a man and leader. I know we're throwing a bunch of terms around like base, but this is pretty cringe-pilled. Whatever that means, I don't know. This usually means whenever a female NPC came around, he would either be extremely confrontational with her, or hit on her in the most cringe way possible. Okay, yeah, definitely cringe-pilled, whatever that means again, I don't know. Like, I remember when we encountered the female peasant rebel leader of a liberated town, he would not stop mocking the idea of a woman leader. He asked of her a body count, and demanded that she gets on her knees and suck his tallywhacker. And when she refused, he began attacking her with his sword. He defeated her and made sure to take her down non-lethally, so the DM decided that she was a phase spirit and had her body turn into spiritual energy and float away. He later admitted to me that he wasn't originally planning for her to be a phase spirit, but feared what kind of sick things he would have done to her. Oh my god, DM knows. Okay, hold on 1 second. If you're in the know that this guy's kind of a creep and probably was gonna do something inappropriate to the woman, why the hell are you still letting him play? If you think he's being a bad actor and you think he's gonna be a problem player and you can kinda tell already, then why'd you let him stay in the first place? This was your moment to just straight up say, nope, nah, I know exactly what you're doing, don't like the vibes, not matching the vibes, you out of here. But instead he let him play, which I'm mad. But also we get to read an RPG horror story, so less mad? No, I'm still mad. Look, I'm fine with in-game sexism, but this guy's playstyle was straight up immersion breaking and made it hard for the actual female players to play, since his sexism was spilling out of game. This became increasingly apparent when he found his Instagram account, and oh boy, this guy didn't just take the red pill, he swallowed the whole bottle. The party unanimously decided not to kick him though, because we all thought he was pretty young, just graduated high school, and would grow out of it as he actually interacted with the real women. I remember Moon Elf jokingly said, every campaign needs at least one a-hole. Actually, I disagree. I don't think you need an a-hole in a campaign. If you want to play an a-hole as a character and everybody's cool at the table, right? Sure. Fine, because conflict is drama. But if somebody's been actually unironically an a-hole and being sexist and being inappropriate at a table, it makes people feel uncomfortable and doesn't want to let them play, regardless of how young they are, you should probably let the player know that's not gonna fly here. If you're gonna continue, you're gonna be removed. Either don't do the thing that's cringe and just play like a normal player, or get out. When players become older and they get set in their ways, it is impossible to get them to change unless they really want to. But this guy's young, and the least you could do is course correct by gently push him in the right direction instead of just letting him learn everything from Twitter, I guess. But this is where things take a messed up turn. You see, Sokka was flirting with Moon Elf this whole campaign. We were all fine with this, even as his flirtation got more desperate. Moon Elf eventually told him that she could never be with him because he is just projecting his feelings for his old girlfriend onto him, and that her connection to the moon would not bring her back. In my opinion, this could have been a great character moment to plant the seeds of character development for this douchier version of Sokka. That's not how it went down. Fast forward to an encounter with some ogres and Moon Elf is knocked out. During the battle, Sokka rescues her by taking her to a nearby cave. And then out of nowhere says that he makes love to her as if he is making love to the moon. Oh my god. The DM says, "You know she's still knocked out, right?" He said, "I know." Moon Elf told him to cut it out and she doesn't want to sleep with him. And the DM said, "No struggle snuggle player characters. It's literally the only rule for the campaign, and you already know this." Oh, he already knows this, and he's doing it anyway. Okay, never mind. You did some course correcting. Clearly he didn't listen. You probably should have been a little bit tougher on the rules and stuff. But hey, let's see how this plays out. And then he said the most disgusting thing I've ever heard him say. He said, "It's not struggle snuggle if she likes it, and I roll a performance check to see if she does." Oh my god, this guy, Jesus Christ. Oh no, ladies and gentlemen. And the DM just shook his head and said, "Okay, Sokka, before you roll, Zuko appears out of the shadows of the cave, casts firebolt on you, burns you to a crisp, and you die. He then creeps back into the shadows and spontaneously disappears." And then the DM told him to leave the table and that he was sick of his BS. He tried to argue and say, "It's what Sokka would do, and no girl could resist Sokka's dick." I'm gonna die from laughing too hard, dude. Jesus Christ. This guy didn't even make Sokka a base. It's literally Sokka cringe build. Jesus Christ. Sokka the incel. He bastardized our boy Sokka. I've never seen Avatar The Last Airbender, so I recently watched it for real, and Sokka is the best boy in that whole entire show. This is a bastardization. This does not represent him at all. But the DM just kept telling him to leave the table firmly. He then got more and more belligerent with both the DM and Moon Elf until the DM threatened to tell the beefy de facto security guy working there that his player is refusing to leave the table. After trying to make his character SA another character in-game. He would not stop though and increasingly yelled at the Moon Elf for not giving him a chance in-game. DM then motioned to the beefy dude to come over, told him what happened, and the incel just tried to lie. And said DM and the other player tried to struggle snuggle his character. Yikes. We all corroborated DM's story, and Beefy Dude kicked Sokka out of the store. He refused to go, so he had to manhandle him as he screamed a bunch of insults at the DM, the party, and the Moon Elf. Which is then carried on as if he died before he could even think to do what he was gonna do. And Moon Elf lived, as DM just wanted to not let that be her last memory as her character. So he obviously got banned from the game shop. He also blocked us on literally everything, which is fine by me. He just beat me to it. So yeah, if you're reading this, Sokka, thank you for ruining a great character. You suck on multiple levels. And there we go, folks. The story of cringe-built Sokka the incel. He just desecrated our boy. I cannot believe it. But you know, at the same time, there can be a lesson learned from this. If you know somebody's going to be a problem, like the DM in the story knew ahead of time that, the player was going to do something, act. Don't just sit around and wait for it. Don't expect the player to change just magically unless you course correct and do something specific to try to influence some sort of a positive mentality or a more productive, game-focused mentality for the player that's, being an edgelord. If you have a chance to course correct that bad decision and not be an enabler of this sort of things, then do so. Otherwise, just don't keep him around. Don't keep him around. If you notice that he's going to do something weird and you kind of feel and getting really bad vibes, just ask the player to leave. I'm pretty sure you could just make a post on Facebook or on the front of the game store or something and just find a different player that's not going to be a cringe-built Sokka. Christ, I said cringe-built way too much. My brain feels like it's rotted. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.